like I said, crystal clear, but the bullseye is blurry. So now it's my best guess. Just to let you know, I held the bottom of the circle, the very top of the sight. Let me turn the camera so you can see where it impacted. Why, hello there, friends. I want to thank everybody for clicking on this video and joining in on this conversation since I posted my last video showing all the snow that we received. Yeah, there's still piles of it here and there, but it is melting, but it's an absolute muddy mess. So anyhow, I hope this video finds everybody doing well, and as the title is suggesting, can you teach an old dog new tricks? And of course, I'm the old dog. Let me kind of give you a life perspective in this, okay? I grew up in the state of New Hampshire, and at that time, and I don't know if it's true now, but at that time, if I had completed a hunter's education course, I could purchase a hunting license at 14 years of age. As long as I had an adult, someone over 18, I could hunt with a gun, with a license, and harvest game. Well, obviously, my hunting partner at the time would have been my father, naturally. And recalling some of the things that my dad told me at that time, I'm now having to reflect back upon because of my aging eyesight. Now, my dad never had glasses. He always had really good eyesight, and so did my mother. But for some reason, my eyesight is beginning to fail me. But I can remember my dad growing up in New Hampshire, one of the earliest lessons that he taught me, because I wanted to buy as my first gun a Marlin 30-30. He had one, he was an excellent shot with it, and he always classified it as a brush gun, not a gun to be shooting at extremely long distances. And my dad would always try to implant this thought in my mind. Most of the time when you see deer in the woods, they're going to be well within shotgun range. Now, we did a lot of duck and goose hunting at that point in our lives also, so my first gun happened to be the Marlin goose gun. And I hadn't really thought about that shotgun in many, many, many years until I recently saw a video on the Dennis Pritchard Outdoor channel, I think it is, where he was showing his Marlin goose gun. It's like, oh wow, I hadn't thought about that in a very long time. I don't own one anymore. I got rid of that years and years and, well, decades ago. But anyhow, my dad always tried to instill into me and my brother that every time you're going to see game in the woods, most of the time it's going to be well within shotgun range. Now, with that thought in mind, when I first went out hunting by myself at that time in New Hampshire, when you reach the age of 16, having completed the hunter's education course, I could go hunting on my own at that time, even being 16 years of age. Well, what did I do? I had to take my dad's 30-30 all by myself, walking through a swampy area in New Hampshire. Yeah, the first time I ever went out, all by myself. I shot a doe in the ear. Why? Because she came up within shotgun range. Damn, I should have listened to my father. But oh no, I thought I knew better. I had to take his 30-30. Yep, that doe came up like within 15 yards. And obviously the 30-30 was sighted in for a much greater distance, but my dad was right. Now, I've mentioned before on this channel, when it comes to me and black powder, I've taken game at 100 yards, but I typically try to set myself up at shooting game 30, 40, maybe 50 yards, and that's why I tend to sight my rifles in, my black powder rifles in, at really no more than 50 yards, but at 30 yards. And most of the time at Mountain Man Rendezvous, you're going to be shooting targets at a 30, 40, maybe 50 yards, and it might be on an occasion that you'll shoot at something out at 100 yards. It's not a common thing to do, from my experience, shooting at targets over 100 yards. And usually, I don't see that here in New Mexico, but when I rendezvoused in Arizona with those buckskinners, they would shoot paper targets at 100 yards, but they would always use cross sticks. So you'd always have something to stabilize your rifle. But here in New Mexico, it's not really that much of a common practice. Most of it's done within 50 yards or thereabouts, give and take. So, after my previous deer hunt, and I took that one shot to answer the comment, if leaving your rifle loaded for a long period of time and your spit patch drying out, how much would it affect the accuracy? And as you saw with that one shot at 30 yards, I shot a little bit high, and I forgot that I had that rifle really sighted in for about 50 yards. So I overshot the target, but still, even with that overshooting of the target, I showed everybody it's well within acceptable range of killing any game. If you were shooting at the heart-lung area, that bullet would have drilled through the heart-lung area. Okay? But knowing that I mostly compete with my Great Plains, I decided to fine-tune the sights a little bit better. And that's because, not because the gun misses anything or is not sighted in properly, it's because my eyesight has been changing. And let me just, bring this in to more of a focus. With my glasses on, I can see very clearly the target in front of me. Even if it's at 50, 60, 70, even if it's 100 yards, I can see that target clear. But at that point, the rear sight becomes fuzzy and blurry. So for me, when I hunt with my glasses on, or even compete at a Mountain Man Rendezvous with my glasses on, I have to try to compensate where that front sight is actually being placed in the rear sight because it's so fuzzy and blurry. Now, when I took that shot after my hunting period, for lack of a better terminology right now, I decided to take it with my glasses off. Now, with my glasses off, my rear sight becomes clear as a bell. And my front sight is still real clear. But at that point, the front target becomes blurry. I'm basically like seeing a mirage of that front sight, which could, I'm not making an excuse, but which could have caused me to shoot high because I can't see that front sight clearly. So I decided to make some adjustments on the sights with my Great Plains. So what I did is I opened up the rear sight so that even though it's still a little blurry, the blurriness isn't interfering with me seeing that front sight and beyond that. Because if it's this narrow and I'm seeing blur, well, the blur becomes like this. But if I open up the rear sight, then the blurriness is less obtrusive. And it allows me to be able to kind of make a little bit of a compensation. Now, what I also decided to do was to change, to the best of my ability, the point of impact. Now, like I said, I had this Great Plains sighted in about 50 yards. And that, I don't know how well I can pick up and if I can describe it well enough, but that was the height of my front sight. Okay. So what I did is I unsoldered this from the dovetail and I soldered in a new front sight. Started with it taller and started filing it down so that I could find the point of impact at about 30 yards. And not because it's a hunting rifle more than anything else, it's because it's what I used to compete at Mountain Man Rendezvous. Okay. So I'll show you the first target. And I didn't record this, but I'm going to record the rest of it because I think I've got the height where I want it now. But here's the target oriented this way. And the first few shots went way, way low because obviously I had that front sight taller. And I'm also electing to making it a little bit wider. Here's the original, if you guys can kind of see. Maybe I'll get you some dial caliper readings on it. There's that one. And then the one that I have on it now, and I'll explain the reason why I had to change this in just a moment. It's a lot thicker. So let me just pause here and get you a reading from my dial caliper, and you can kind of see how much thicker the sight is now. The old sight measures right now 0.67. When my eyes were better, I could pick that up really, really well. Now the blade is 0.82. So it's a lot thicker, and I also made it a little bit thicker, hoping that opening up the V-notch, I could see that front blade a little bit better also, as opposed to how thin the blade was that I replaced on it decades ago. So anyhow, once I realized I was shooting low, I started filing it, and at the same time I'm having to adjust the windage because having taken it off and resoldered on the new blade, you have to do that. So then I started coming up, and I thought, well, I'm right here. I know how short this blade was. I'm going to take some more off of this blade, and well, as you can see, I took too much off. So guess what? I had to go back in and resolder on a new blade and start over. And I actually reprofiled it just a little bit different. Let me grab it and I'll stick it in front of the camera so you can kind of see, because this blade is kind of long for me at this point. I know it looks good on the gun, for me at least, having a long blade, but I decided to go with something that's a little bit shorter in length. Okay, so let me show you what the profile looks like right now. So if you guys can kind of see, that profile is kind of short, and it's a little, well, I'll say it's a little tall, but maybe it's not. Let me explain. So this was the second target, and as you can see, the height of the blade, I had to file it down, but you can see I've got the windage just about where it needs to be. So I did all that shooting, all that adjusting, and then the 11th shot hit the bullseye. And that's, moving it just a hair and filing off. I was a little more cautious this time in filing the height. So that was the last shot. Now I'm getting ready to go out and, fine tune it, double check and make sure that that's exactly where I want it. Now, showing that you can teach an old dog new tricks, and I want to thank the channel The Old Ranger, because recently I watched a video where he was shooting his Great Plains rifle and he was loading it with a 20,000s patch. So why is this significant to me? Well, when I first bought that gun, I could not load this rifle with a .530 round ball with the 20,000s patch. I couldn't do it. I struggled loading it. It was very hard loading. So I went to an 18,000s patch. Yeah, I got a little easier, but when I got to the 15,000s patch, it worked just fine. So I've always stuck with the 15,000s patch on this particular rifle. Then I coned it, and then I just never ever bothered to do anything with it because I was happy with it. And then my eyesight starts failing, and it's like, crap, something has got to be changed here. But I watched that video, and he's having zero problems loading his Great Plains with a 20,000s patch with a 5.30 round ball. I thought, wow, I hadn't tried that recently. Is the reason why I was having problems because, you know, the rifling needed to be smoothed out? I mean, for whatever reason, I don't know. So when I decided to work on the sights, I decided to start loading my Great Plains with a 20,000s patch. So all of these shots right here are made with a 20,000s patch, 70 grains of Schutzen. And I got to tell you, I had zero issues loading that gun with a 20,000s patch. The only thing that I can state that, at least from my perspective, that's a little reasonable, is that I wasn't allowing enough time for the rifle to be shot in, if that's the proper terminology. Seasoning the barrel properly or anything like that. So now I'm at the point to where I'm changing my patch size on this Great Plains, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't record it, but I went and I recovered every single one of those 20,000s patches, and not a single one was disintegrated, like I've showed on this channel before. I shoot that gun with the 15,000s patch, and it seems like the more I shoot it, going through a dirtier barrel, the more the patches tend to disintegrate. But those are 15,000s patches. And I didn't clean out the barrel. Between any of these shots, I did not clean out the barrel. Okay? So I've got like 8... Number 9 went below the target, so I've got 9 shots in this target, and then I got 11 shots in this target. And when I redid the sight, like I said, I didn't clean the barrel. I just left it dirty because, for whatever reason, I don't believe cleaning your barrel in between shots, or from shot to shot, 3 shots to 5 shots. I don't believe that helps increase accuracy. To me, and I've stated before, even at the Cache Le Plou rendezvous, on one occasion I went 25 shots before I missed my first target. That was going from the woods walk, which is 21, and then turning right around with that same dirty barrel in this Great Plains and shooting the varmint chute. And that was the only shot that I actually missed. Just that one time. It wasn't the gun, that was me. So after all these shots, not cleaning the barrel, because I don't think at least using a spit patch has any adverse effect on how this gun shoots, or even my flintlock for that fact. So anyhow, thank you for indulging me with this long dialogue. And there again, teaching an old dog new tricks. I got one more thing I want to say. I want to give a shout out and a thanks to the channel Dennis Pritchard Outdoors, because all my life that I've been shooting long guns, I've always held my gun like this. Okay? Now that I'm getting older, muscle mass is going away and stuff like that. And I've also noticed on some other channels that fellows recording the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association, whether that be their spring shoot, their fall shoot, whatever. I've noticed a lot of us older guys and them themselves are having to tuck their elbow up against their body to steady their rifle. Years ago, that was never ever considered offhand. If you couldn't have this arm touching any part of your body to stabilize, you always had to shoot like this. Well, getting older, it's getting a little bit more difficult for me to do that. Some guys may not have that, but I do. Okay, so I was watching this video, Dennis Pritchard channel, and he actually shoots his long guns with his hand like this, not like this, because I've even noticed myself when I go from this to this, I can feel the muscles in my shoulder kind of like working against me in that motion. So I've actually been practicing this with my flintlock and my Great Plains, holding the rifle like this instead of like this, at least for the time being, seems to be a lot more comfortable. And holding it like this, I'm actually able to hold it steadier longer offhand. And I've even tried, going back to holding it like this with, this portion of my arm tucked up against my body. I still can't seem to hold it steady long enough to draw a bead on my target. But when I move it like this and hold it like this, even with my arm extended all the way out, you would think, and I would think so also, that holding your arm out this length would not make you stabilize your gun long enough. But at least in my case, it appears that that works. So, if that makes any sense, I know for me practicing and holding it like this seems to be working, but I won't know for 100% until I get out and shoot the gun offhand. But before I get to that point, I want to get out there with a new target and see if I can't improve upon this just a little bit. Just a little bit. But either way, if this is the size of a heart, you can see it made meat. So I'm going to get out one of these days and shoot it. It'll be in this video. So I'm going to get out when I get a really good day and see if I can't fine-tune this. And then what I'm going to do is do another video practicing offhand holding the guns like this instead of like this. Because even now, I can feel muscles in here kind of like popping and tweaking. I can actually feel it just making this motion right here. If you're experiencing the same thing, give it a try. Maybe you, like me, will be one of them old dogs that you can teach a new trick to. So let's get out and see if I can't fine-tune this Great Plains. Okay, let's see if I need to make any fine-tune adjustment to these sights. 3F Schutzen, settled, 70 grains, and a 20,000 spit patch. Let's see what we can do. Well, it looks like the windage is right on. Just a little low. I'm going to take a couple shots just to kind of get a group and see. And remember, this is all being done with my glasses on, which makes my rear sight a little fuzzy. That's why I opened it up, but it makes my front sight look pretty good. Well, I found that patch. Like I said, 20 thousandths. It's not disintegrated, but that's only the first shot. In the course of doing all of this, if you happen to hear some more shooting in the background, that would be my neighbor over here exercising his Second Amendment right. I don't know if you guys saw it, but a huge chunk of wood flipped up and over. I'm actually shooting through the thickness of 3 2x4s. And I can see I'm about in the same spot as number 1. So I think I'm going to take a few moments, gingerly file some off of the top. And that's the back side of my 3 thickness 2x4s. I don't know how well you guys can see that. But that's what 70 grains of Schutzen settled. I think that's more than powerful enough. Here you've got the 1, 2, 3. Pretty good. This is interesting. And believe it or not, he's still alive. A little cold, but he's still alive. Well, I took 20 strokes off very gingerly, but it looks like I still need to take some more off. A little more progress, but it's no different than what with the second shot. I'm going to keep at it. So that's shot number 5, and the 20 thousandths patches is still looking really good. Nothing's burning through, and doesn't appear that anything's tearing in the loading process. So I think this old dog is going to stick with 20 thousandths patches now in my Lyman Great Plain. And as you could see, the windage is just spot on as far as I'm concerned. Somebody may argue with that, but as far as I'm concerned, that windage is really, really great. Now I just need to get the elevation, and I am shooting at 30 yards. And as I mentioned earlier, previously in this video, my hunting situations, I usually set myself up to take very close shots anyways. All right, so I'm going to do a hair bit more filing, see if I can't bring that up. I don't know if the camera's going to pick any of this up or not, but now I have a neighbor in this direction, more south of me, exercising his Second Amendment right. Must be a good day to be alive to exercise your constitutional rights. Yeah, I can't see where that one went from here, but I think I still shot a little low. Yeah, I made a little progress, I think. There again, it's where I'm holding the front sight in conjunction with the bullseye. So I'm not really sure if it's necessarily the front sight or me where I'm holding it. But I'm going to go mark it off and maybe file off a little bit more and reprofile the front of it. So it looks like, and I'll know better when I get it into the editing program, 6, 7, and 8 cut the same hole, or like right there. But there's the patch for number 8. Solid. I am absolutely convinced. I also flipped the target upside down, and you'll see that in just a moment. So let me get reloaded, and I think I'll take off just a little bit more, see if I can't bring it up. I don't want to say that I'm close to where I want to be, but I'm getting there. Stay tuned. And if you guys can recall from earlier in the video how much taller I had that front sight to allow me to do some adjusting, let me show you the profile now. It's definitely getting longer. Let me get a close-up. I can't see it too well from here. The sun's reflecting in the view screen. Well, you guys probably recognized it before I did, but number 9 cut the top of the bullseye in the same spot where like number 5, 6, and 7 were. I mean, just like right there. So I think I'm going to leave the height alone. The windage, as far as I'm concerned, is spot on. I'm going to take another 1 or 2 more shots. I'm going to hold it just a hair lower than where I have been holding it, because I've been trying to hold it so that my front sight basically hides that 2-inch circle. And as you can see, it's, shot a little high that time, and I did take some more off and reprofile it just a little bit. So this time I'm going to aim just a little bit lower, and let's see where the ball impacts. Well, I think I got it. This time, instead of burying the entire bullseye in my front sight, I put the top portion of the blade as best as I could halfway in to the bullseye, and it looks like I got it. I'm going to go mark it off and load up and shoot one more time and see if I can get close to that same spot. I can't tell from here. Let me walk up there and I'll get a close-up for myself. So it appears to me that shot went right into that same cluster right at the top of the bullseye. So I think I'm going to leave it where it is. I am very pleased with the windage, the elevation. That's just something I'm going to have to get used to. And bear in mind, I'm at 30 yards, so if I ever get into another hunting situation or go out to a mountain man rendezvous where there is a target at 70, 80, 90, 100 yards, that bullet will probably be just spot on. But I'm going to load up and take one more shot without my glasses this time. That rear sight and my front sight is going to be crystal clear, but the bullseye is going to be kind of blurry. I just kind of want to see for myself with this last shot what the difference would actually be with or without my glasses on. And I can tell you with my glasses on, even though I opened up that V-notch, it's still just a little blurry, but because the blur is not closing in on the front sight, I can kind of put the front sight right in the middle of where the blur is, and as you can see, at least for me, it's worked. Like I said, crystal clear, but the bullseye is blurry. So now it's my best guess. Just to let you know, I held the bottom of the circle, the very top of the sight. Let me turn the camera so you can see where it impacted. Well, you judge for yourself. I think I hit the bullseye, even without my glasses. I think I'll leave the sights right where they are. I'll give you guys a close-up. That one right there, shot number 11, without my glasses. And bid everybody adieu. Thank you for watching, and everybody have a great day. And if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to share it with your bestest of buds.